Tanjiro Kamado, I mean, as always, is born in a world full of demons, creatures of the night, and things that, let's just say, a lot of people like to believe don't exist. But the idea of it is always going to be true. Because Tanjiro Kamado may be just a normal guy, no normal kid and a normal brother that basically is an amazing person to his family and tries to do everything for them. But one day, all it takes is one bad day. And one day, he heads off to the village to sell coal. And when he shows back up at his family's place, well, his whole family would no longer be of the world they live in, being sent to the afterlife by what he believes to be a demon. But as this happens, as all this occurs, Tanjiro can feel something boiling underneath his skin, a rage that he's never felt before, an anger that he's never felt before. So much so that when he walks over, he starts putting basically small craters everywhere he walks. Everywhere he walks, it's like he's making a small area that is breaking through the ground over and over again. And all of this, well, it's because of one thing and one thing only. Something his family never told him and something he never knew about in the first place. And that is that he is a Saiyan. He isn't actually the person that he knew he was. He isn't the true brother of his young sister by the name of Nezuko, the one he eventually grabs and tries to save, the one that they get pushed down the mountain and she tries to fight him and tries to actually end him, trying to bite, crawl, or scratch, claw, and do anything that she can. But the thing is, Tanjiro is able to fend her off. This time around, even during this kind of scuffle, he's able to fend her off pretty easily, with strength that he never knew he even had. But there's something racing through his mind. Where's this strength coming from? Why did it just show up now? How does it exist? But the thing is, he's always had this strength, but he's just never had to use it. He is a warrior race and a warrior's person. But the thing is, he wasn't born, or at least he thought he wasn't born, in a time where he needed that warrior spirit, that warrior's pride. But this changed everything. His life is changing drastically. Not just because his sister is now turned into a demon, but also because there's so much more that he had no idea even existed. Giyu Tomioka would eventually show up and attack his sister Nezuko, and Tanjiro would even have a kind of a somewhat decent chance against Giyu, and Giyu would be pretty impressed, and he would tell Tanjiro that right there is not his sister, that is a demon. It is no longer the person he loved, no longer the person that he cared for, no longer the sister he once knew. But he's not listening to a single thing. He's not listening to the fact that any of this could be and could possibly be true. No, that is Nezuko. That is my sister. But no, he makes it very clear that it is not. But soon he gets a reality check when Nezuko goes out of her way to even protect her brother Tanjiro. And in doing so, something clicks in Giyu's mind that maybe, just maybe, there's something else going on. Maybe, just maybe, there's something else that is happening. And that this sister is completely different. And as this is happening, Giyu would look and he would see something fall out of the back of Tanjiro. What the hell is that? And Tanjiro wonders, what is he referring to? And Giyu points it out. It's a tail. You have a tail? This would confuse Giyu and even kind of confuse Tanjiro, because Tanjiro thought to an extent that this was just, a part of him, right? Like it was just normal. Like he knew it wasn't normal necessarily, but he just thought it was just some sort of, evolved thing, or kind of like a thing that showed up and it was like a bad thing, right? A birth defect in a way, in which of course, Giyu would be like, that's not a thing, man. I don't know what you're on about. But it's obvious that there's something underlying that isn't really showing the whole truth. But he kind of brushes it off just for now, because he's seen some wild stuff. You know, he sees some pretty crazy things. So maybe, just maybe, this is somewhat normal. Well, not really, but, you know, something along those lines. So he decides, you know what, I'm going to send them off to Urokodaki and have him handle these things. And that's what they do. He sends him off to Urokodaki, and Urokodaki starts kind of dealing with this scenario. And, well, Tanjiro, on his way up to Urokodaki, has to deal with a couple issues, right? For one, Nezuko being vulnerable to the sun. Secondly, a demon that shows up known as the Temple Demon. But when Tanjiro faces off with him, the demon has never felt such power, has never seen such speed. And he even questions himself, is this a demon? Is this one of us? But I just can't tell? What is even happening? In which Tanjiro just makes quick work of this creature, and before you know it, he is training with Urokodaki, and he is training his absolute you-know-what off in Mount Saguri. He's doing everything he can to learn the way of water breathing, trying to learn the way of the sword, and so much more. And he's pretty damn good at it pretty damn quickly. I mean, he's like borderline a prodigy at it. And so much so that he goes through the entirety of the events pretty quickly. But Urokodaki understands that Tanjiro has a power, has a strength, has an ability that he knows very little about. But he does know that he needs to get a grasp on it, because he could change everything for every single one of them forever. And he tells him that straight up, that he needs to figure this thing out, and that's what they're going to do. And he begins to train Tanjiro not just in the way of water breathing and the way of the sword, but also in figuring out the powers that he has. So much so that one singular night, he would look up into the sky and he would see the full moon. And as he sees that full moon, let's just say half of the entirety of the forest on the mountain would be obliterated. But luckily enough, Urokodaki is able to deduce exactly what's going on and where this power came from. So he goes for it and slices off the tail of, well, Tanjiro. But the thing is, in doing so, this giant being would actually land directly on one of the legs of Urokodaki, so hurting him so badly that it not only shatters the leg, but basically makes it so it's unusable and it has to be amputated. And well, Urokodaki not only loses one of his legs, but this does tell him, and he believes that this is worth the sacrifice, because he does tell him what strength Tanjiro truly has. The strength beyond a mortal man. The strength beyond any human he's ever seen. Because Tanjiro Kamado is not a human. And even throughout these next couple days, he would let Tanjiro train kind of on his own to try to learn, figure out his powers. And he wants to do some digging, some searching. And he finds a couple papers, couple ideas, and a couple things. Those things involve the ideas of an alien race known as the Saiyans. But that's it. The cutoff on that idea, the cutoff on kind of the idea of what a Saiyan is beyond Urokodaki. So much so that he has no idea what it even entails. What a Saiyan is, what this person is, if aliens truly exist. None of these things make sense to Urokodaki. Legitimately, he has no idea if they're real, what's going on, or what's going to happen. But what he does know is that Tanjiro Kamado, he might not be exactly this normal person, but he could be the answer to truly all their prayers. And Tanjiro on his own at this point would be actually training with Sabito and Makomo. And even the spirits of both of them would understand that this kid is the real deal. So much so that he is way different than anything they've seen. And his little, task of cutting the boulder in half is nothing. Like, we're talking about nothing. But even Sabito makes it very clear that just because he has physical gifts, just because he has this potential, doesn't mean he can slack off on his true and pure swordsman skills. He needs to truly be the best at that and then his strength and abilities and his speed will carry him further than he could possibly imagine, even further than any other demon slayer that ever existed. And that right there makes Tanjiro ecstatic. To hear this, to hear that he has a chance to save his sister, he's going to unleash anything he possibly can to get exactly where he needs to be. And well, this leads him to his final selection. After, listening to the two what looks to be little girls or twins, really not little girls, but you know what's going on. And he basically hears them talk, listens to them, and then survives 7 days in like a week or something around those lines in a demon infested forest. This final selection, he would encounter countless demons, but the main one he would encounter is the hand demon. The hand demon himself would mock Tanjiro and mock every single other person that has ever tried to really become a quote-unquote demon slayer, and then all they're doing is just feeding him to get stronger and stronger. But Tanjiro, he would not let him say a single bad thing about any of these people that he knows and obviously cares about to an extent in Sabito and Makomo. And after, absolutely outclassing this demon, Tanjiro would then go up to the demon and in a swift fashion, would slice the head straight off this demon, making it so easy, so simple, that even all the other demon slayers that are there, they would feel inferior in a way. Like Tanjiro basically was flying. The way he jumped, the way he pushed, and the way he got and used his concentration breathing, it was almost like he was flying. It was almost like he was just in perfect unison with his literal sword. He made it look so simple that it made a lot of these other demon slayers feel like maybe they are far from ready. Tanjiro would even slay so many demons that during that time period that none of the demon slayers would even die or even fail. Now this is good and bad. Obviously no one's dead, so that's of course a good thing. But obviously some people that aren't, let's just say ready for the situation would be let into the demon slayer corps. Now with that said, Tanjiro was worrying about his own missions, so he worries about getting his Nichiren blade, but also deals with someone by the name of Genya. And Genya, well, he has one hell of an attitude, and Tanjiro shuts that down quicker than you could possibly imagine, and even shatters his arm into pieces. Now, that's a whole other thing that's going on, but he takes his Nichiren blade, heads back to Urokodaki, and eventually, after some preparation with a box and Nezuko and stuff like that, he would take Nezuko, and he would head off on his first mission. And that first mission is against the swamp demon. But the swamp demon, especially after finding the swamp demon, would be defeated with ease. Now, he wouldn't be there quick enough to stop, the obvious, take the swamp demon taking or kidnapping other people. But he would be able to save one person, at least a person that was, basically taken that same night. And he was luckily able to do it quick enough. But the swamp demon himself, he sees something in Tanjiro, sees something terrifying. Not only does he see that red-haired fellow, the red-haired being that, he once seen through Muzan's eyes, other known as Yorichi, but he sees something else. Is he truly a stronger version of that person? Tanjiro doesn't say a word. He's more warrior than anything. He doesn't care much about the feelings of these demons, and he doesn't care much about hearing their side of the stories. Tanjiro, he's ready for business, and that's all he cares about. And his physical stature, everything that is added on from his training, makes things that much easier. And again, Tanjiro basically flies around, keeping up with the swamp demon, making it look extremely easy. But the swamp demon himself is wondering. He didn't know a demon slayer could fly. It seems like he has the powers of a demon himself, and it makes no sense. So let's just say, when Tanjiro would go on his next mission to the city that never sleeps, and he would face off with Muzan, Muzan initially would be cocky, confident, and think, well, this kid isn't all that. There's no way he is. But then he would realize something. He would see through the eyes of another demon, see what that kid did, and he would realize that this kid he's not your normal demon slayer. He is far from your normal demon slayer. He is nothing like you've ever seen. And he would go face to face with him, and he would wonder, maybe he should do it now. Take him out now, where he has a chance. He sees something in Tanjiro, sees that he has a power, has a strength beyond what his eyes can see, strength beyond what his eyes can tell. And he can tell that this kid might just get more and more powerful as they progress. The more and more he trains, the more and more he puts his body through hell, he might just be different. And as he's thinking about this, and as he's talking about this in his own head, he looks to the side and he sees something. Tanjiro, he has a tail. Obviously, we know it was cut off, but at this time, it grew back. And he understands and he learns and he realizes this kid, Tanjiro Kamado, he's not human. And his eyes would grow wide and he would find a way to get out of there, to leave. But it's not just because he was fearful. It's not just because he was terrified. It was also because he realized something. Tanjiro Kamado, he's not human. And he might just be the perfect person to make sure that he can gain immortality. And that right there is enough to make Muzan salivate and figure this thing out. But he would leave and he would eventually pressure Tanjiro with 2 demons, sending him that way. But Tanjiro before that would meet up with Lady Tameo and Yushiro, speaking with them, talking about getting a cure for Nezuko. But when Suzumaru and Yahaba, show up, their whole goal is just to test Tanjiro, see where he's at, see how strong he is. But, well, let's just say Muzan wouldn't learn much, because in only 15 seconds, Tanjiro would have them with their heads falling on the ground very, very quickly. This version of Tanjiro means business. So when they started yapping, they started talking, as they started talking smack, Tanjiro was ready. And just like how they came in with smoke and they came in full guns ablazing, Tanjiro reacted the same way and did not hesitate. And as Yushiro and Lady Tameo, see this, they realize, whoa, this kid, not only does he mean business, but he might be something different. And they ask him, what is he truly? It seems like Muzan wants him for some reason or is curious about him. And on top of that, we can see the tail, in which Tanjiro says that it was once cut off, but he didn't know it would grow back, at least not grow back this quickly. And they wonder, well, what is he? Humans don't have tails. Demons don't have tails. Like, this isn't a thing. This doesn't exist. In which he would tell them he doesn't know. All he knows is one word, one idea, and one kind of thing. And that is Saiyan. He doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know where it comes from. He doesn't know what happened. But supposedly, he might just be part Saiyan. Maybe full Saiyan. Maybe he's come from somewhere. Maybe his sister isn't even his sister. But still, family is family, blood or not. And he's not going to let her stay a demon. Lady Tameo and Yushiro would say that they respect that. And honestly, they would not be thinking about anything less. They wouldn't ever think that, yeah, he's going to give up, or he's going to give up on his sister, or do this or do that. No, never did they think that, especially from the single time that they met him right now. They can tell that all he cares about is making sure that people are safe and that his sister is safe. But it seems like, let's just say, he doesn't have the nicest demeanor. He's not the nicest and, the person all around where you feel comfortable being in his presence, at least not 24/7. He seems to have a little bit of that scariness to him, as if he has a different side of him, a more primal side of him. In which Tanjiro nods his head and says his family taught him well, to be nice, to be careful, to be grateful, and all these things. But he knows now that person that they were raising was to basically be the person, a nice person, a great person, in a place and in a time where things weren't so rough, weren't so terrifying. Now it's different. And it doesn't matter if he has to use a sword or the fists and his knuckles on his hands. He will do what needs to be done to get all the way to the path to save his sister. In which, of course, Lady Tamaya would understand and say that they need the blood of the 12 Kizukis. But it seems like the kid is beyond so many demon slayers that they have ever seen. And he shouldn't have much issues dealing with a lot of the path that is going to be in front of him. And that path would lead him to a yellow-haired fellow by the name of Zenitsu, who's begging for a girl to marry him. Tanjiro would forcibly take him along with him, and they would head to a nearby mansion to save a brother of 2 little kids. And after they split up, Tanjiro would eventually encounter a demon known as Kyogai. But Kyogai, well, when he looks at Tanjiro, there's something else going on in that brain. Initially, Kyogai believes this is his way to get back in the 12 Kizuki, but he realizes that the price against Tanjiro may just be too high. And as Tanjiro's about to strike, someone else would come collapsing in, and that is Inosuke. Inosuke would come out of nowhere and basically start making things a little bit more difficult. Kyogai would see this as an opening and try to strike down Tanjiro, strike down both of them. But Tanjiro would react quicker than any human would react. And before you know it, he's already right at the person, already right at the demon. And he would put the sword to the neck, and he would end the fight in one foul swoop. Just like that, getting the blood of one of the former 12 Kizukis. But here's the thing. Kyogai lays there, out of it. Obviously, going on to the next life. And he's in shock. How? He was so quick, I couldn't even see it. But I don't get it. I have no idea. I don't understand. How does this make sense? How does it make sense at all? Well, the reason why Tanjiro is so strong, not just because he's Saiyan, but the training he underwent with Urokodaki was so focused and so perfect, especially at an age that was pretty high level in terms of his physical prime, being that this version of Tanjiro at the age of, the age that he was at, nearing, like you're from your 13s, your 15s, your 16s, and so on. I mean, this is legitimately going to be Tanjiro's prime, at least as a Saiyan. And that's kind of like the whole idea. Obviously, starting the whole thing or whole story at the age of 13, going on to be 15 and stuff like that. He is basically at the prime, or his kind of entering quote unquote adulthood as a Saiyan. So he's already almost at his peak in terms of physical condition. And on top of that, his physical ability has only grown immensely through the countless years of training now, or 2 years of training that he underwent under one of the greatest masters in water breathing and a former water hashira as well, making it look really easy. Everybody, all the crows and all these people that are watching, or at least keeping up, they're sending notices and messages to the hashira that they might just have the true next person up in terms of being a hashira and the next true demon slayer that will take them to that very next level. And before you know it, when they get their orders to go to Mount Natagomo, well, before they even arrive, before they even go, crows would tell them that it is time for a detour, that the 3 of them, or at least Tanjiro, but you need to bring the 3 of them because, Tanjiro's obviously there with them. They need to head, to the Hashira mansion to speak with the Hashira, in which Tanjiro's in shock, like, whoa, like, what's going on? Are we in trouble? What's happening? But they are then kind of brought over there, and they head to the Hashira mansion, or the Butterfly mansion, and they see that Giyu and Shinobu actually have left earlier on to support Mount Natagomo, avoiding hopefully disaster to a certain extent. But of course, the 2 of them, or the 3 of them, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, are on a different playing field, because they begin speaking with other hashira that are there, at least currently there, and then eventually will speak with the master, other known as Ubiyashiki. Now, obviously they wait for the master to arrive, but a lot of questions would be asked, a ton of them by other hashira outside of Shinobu and also Giyu Tomioka, asking Tanjiro various questions about how he got here, where he comes from, how is he so strong, yada yada yada, and Tanjiro would give the best answers he possibly can. But obviously these are massively, restricted. I mean, he doesn't know everything. He can't figure out everything. He doesn't know where he really came from. He has no clue to a large extent. But at the same time, he does know that his power comes from something that was otherworldly, something that allowed him to get to this extent, allowed him to get to this certain level. But at the end of the day, he does understand there are always limitations. And even the hashira, some of the hashira, especially the Wind hashira, decide that they want to fight him. And they start a spar. And yes, he's a little rough around the edges, Tanjiro is specifically, but his power itself allows him to keep up with some of the best. And imagine if he was just a little better with his sword, a little better with that power. He could seriously be stronger than all of the hashira combined. And that right there scares, but makes so many of them a little bit happier. So many of them are interested. So many of them are truly interested in what's going on. Especially Mitsuri, who believes that Tanjiro might be the strongest person she has ever seen and met. Obviously, this would definitely make, another hashira very upset to see, believing that he has some sort of competition, but Tanjiro himself kind of shrugs it off and doesn't really care. Like, he's kind of like, okay, that's cool. I'm the strongest person you've ever met. Awesome. Sounds good, right? He doesn't really care. It doesn't matter to him. And even some of the hashira kind of applaud this. They're like, wow, it seems like all you care about is one thing and one thing only, and one thing pushing you forward. And that's when they hear it and realize and learn about that Tanjiro has a little sister that is a demon, and it erupts. Everything erupts. Immediately, they're trying to eliminate the demon that is basically hiding in one of their buildings. Tanjiro tells them, no, you cannot do that. That is my sister, and she has not harmed a human at all. And this is when a fight would break out between all the hashira and Tanjiro as well. Tanjiro amping up the pace beyond anything. And then the Wind hashira realizes that this kid wasn't even going full throttle when they were kind of minor sparring. This kid has so much more reserved. And it seems like every little tiny bit of damage he takes, the more angry and the stronger the kid gets, taking on all of these hashira just to protect his sister. But eventually, like I said, Ubiyashiki would arrive, shutting this all down and revealing that Tanjiro is fine and that Giyu and also Urokodaki have basically vouched for him. And this would shock everybody, but it would have a realization that, well, just because we feel like we came upon the jackpot doesn't mean the jackpot doesn't come with some extra strings. And at the end of the day, that is the reality. Tanjiro may be the strongest, may be the fastest, maybe have the most potential, but it doesn't mean things will come easy, because his sister may be a demon and his goal is to cure her. His goal isn't to defeat all demons. His goal is to save his sister. And, well, it might be noble, it might be perfect, and it might be amazing, but the Demon Slayers, they see it as reckless, idiotic, and a waste of time. But they don't have a choice listening to Ubiyashiki, and Tanjiro is focused on one thing and one thing only, is curing his sister. But the others are focused on taking down the king of all the demons, Muzan Kibutsuji. But that is where we're going to end part 1 of 2 of What If Tanjiro Was a Saiyan. Tanjiro Kamado has met a ton of the hashira, has met the master of all the hashira, but there's one thing that he seeks after, and that is full-on proper training. Yes, Urokodaki gave him the training of a newbie, somebody who didn't really know what was going on, someone who needed to learn the basics. And Urokodaki did a fantastic job, but he's looking for real experience side by side with a hashira. And well, there's some conversations that happen where they're like, okay, well, who wants to go with who? What's going on? And well, eventually they decide that, all right, how about this? This is what we're going to do. We're going to have you work here, train here with some people that are, very capable. We're going to get some proper training in. We're going to learn new techniques. And then after that, we'll send you on a mission with a hashira. We don't know who just yet, but we'll figure that as we go. And Tanjiro would go a couple months of just training. And normally this would be your rehabilitation time, but him, Inosuke, and Zenitsu would be training like crazy. Like, that's all they'd be doing. And Tanjiro, he has like a different feel for the training. He's telling them and pushing them and making it so like, hey, this training, we're going to get the absolute most of it. And as Shinobu and many other hashira are watching Tanjiro train and get stronger and get better and get more technical, they're in shock. They're thinking, whoa, okay, this kid is a prodigy. I mean, he is beyond what we expected, and he is beyond a lot of things that were possible, at least in a normal human. But they now understand that he is not a normal human. He is far from a normal human. And after those months of training, he is at a level that is pretty hashira compared, or in terms of comparing to a hashira, it's pretty damn close. But he still wants first-hand experience with the hashira, and that would eventually lead him and his group, or Inosuke and Zenitsu, to go on a mission with Rengoku for the Mugen train. But here's the thing. During this mission, they have some issues to deal with. Now, for starters, you have, well, Enmu putting everybody to sleep, but that's not necessarily a big issue. After Tanjiro finds his way back, and after Tanjiro eventually wakes up, he would proceed to absolutely mop the floor with someone like Enmu, helping everybody out, making sure everything's okay, and making sure everyone is, fine. At this point, he's only utilizing water breathing. He has no idea that he could possibly utilize something else. His raw strength and power has carried him so far, and his training regimens have carried him even further. And at the end of the day, he feels massively prepared for some of the hardest fights you can think of. But Enmu, he isn't close to one of the hardest fights that could be imaginable. One of the hardest fights, well, is right over the horizon, and that is with the one and only Upper Moon 3 Akaza. And the thing is, Tanjiro had no idea he was coming, but Muzan looked at it as this was their real chance to take out Tanjiro before he gets too strong. And that is the reality, because Rengoku and Tanjiro face off with Akaza. Initially, Rengoku's thinking, hey, you gotta stay out of this. You gotta stay out of this, I'll handle it, blah, 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 I'm the hashira. But Tanjiro tells him that he can help. He truly can. He knows it. He truly believes it to his core. He can help, in which eventually he gives in. And let's be honest, Rengoku is going to need it. The help with Tanjiro, and Tanjiro actually helping him, makes it so this fight is a lot more manageable to an extent. Rengoku does a lot better, especially with an Akaza who is treating this very seriously. He saw Muzan. He heard what he said. Muzan is fearful of this kid. He is fearful of Tanjiro Kamado. He knows he needs to take this seriously. He knows that this is life or death, and they go at it. Him, Rengoku versus Akaza, they go at it. And it's like a completely different level of a fight. Inosuke and Zenitsu watch in complete and utter awe. And Tanjiro, he continues to diverge his eyes away from the full moon that is within the sky, because he knows that if he messes up, he could turn into a great ape and things could spiral out of control very, very quickly. And he keeps his eyes away from it, staying away from the full moon that is above them, and they continue fighting more and more. Akaza eventually would get a little bit of a separation from Rengoku and also Tanjiro, right? Separating Tanjiro and Rengoku, he would then go straight for the person that he believes would not be able to take the blow as well. At least not as well as, someone else could. And he would go straight for Rengoku. he would go straight for the kill on Rengoku, and Rengoku would barely be able to even react to this, but he would react just in time where he doesn't get completely just obliterated on the spot. And out of nowhere, Tanjiro comes out of just what seems to be literally nowhere and slices toward the neck of Akaza, trying to slice toward the neck, but Akaza would land a punch that shatters multiple ribs and then would throw him as far as possible, believing that he needs to literally section out this fight because them two together might become an actual issue. And he knows that. He can feel it, that this is becoming an issue. But as the fight continues, the sun is just waiting for its call, waiting for its arrival. And Akaza knows that if he goes back without a head, he goes back without the death of Tanjiro Kamado, it's no good for him. It's over. Everything that he ever wanted, everything that he's created, and every moment that he's made is all gone. It will go up in literal flames. He knows that he has to make this fight quick, but having Rengoku, who's a Hashira experienced fighter, and then Tanjiro, who is legitimately overpowering a lot of these moments, it's hard to find a moment where he can eliminate one of them on their own, and he doesn't know exactly what to do. And as he tries to gain that opening, as he tries to get that opening, Rengoku and Tanjiro would be basically making up for every single moment, every single inch. And frankly, they're making things a lot more difficult. Akaza's realizing that this is far from an easy fight. This is far from what this mission was supposed to be. But he knows that he can at least do something before the sun rises. He goes to basically strike Rengoku and injure him as much as possible, but Tanjiro would block it, getting in the way, and Rengoku would basically look for, or Akaza, would look for any opening to injure one of them drastically enough to where it's difficult for them to literally win this fight overall. And eventually he would land a blow once again to Tanjiro's stomach, and this time he would even, basically kind of punch through him. Now, not fully, but partially. And let's just say Tanjiro can feel it. He feels the power behind the punch, but he grabs his arm, unrelenting, and slices right toward his neck. Rengoku out of nowhere does the same, and Akaza, he's in shock. This can't be happening. I can't believe this is happening. But all he knows is that he needs one thing. And the kid in front of him, Tanjiro Kamado, needs to go. And he immediately would go for the ending blow. But the thing is, he believes that he's done enough. Because guess what? The sun is already rising, and he had no opportunity to get out of here anyways. So yes, he takes the L, going down here and burning into ash. But he believes that he defeated Tanjiro Kamado at least, and that in a one-on-one fight, this would have never happened. But at least he did the job. Yes, he falls here, and yes, he's defeated here, but at least Muzan will know that he did the job to get rid of Tanjiro Kamado. And, let's just say Tanjiro is extremely injured. Like, extremely injured. And Tanjiro doesn't know what to do, and his own head, he's like, what do I do? What's going on? Rengoku's coaching him through this as Akaza basically just burns away. He's coaching him, telling him what to do, make sure, to concentrate, use your breathing style, use all this, and that do not let yourself slip just yet. And as all this is happening, Tanjiro would get helped back to the Butterfly Mansion, and he would be legitimately getting better. And it's odd because they're in shock. I mean, this should have killed him. This should be done. There's no way that this makes any sense, but it does. Tanjiro is not human. He heals better. He's different. His whole entire arsenal of DNA is different than theirs. They had no idea that he could survive such a beating and survive such a near-death experience. And that right there is something to think about, because guess what? As things begin to unfold, as Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu go on their own missions to handle, the entertainment district, and as Tanjiro continues to recover, eventually he would recover. Now, it wouldn't be fully, because, I mean, there's no healing chambers or anything like that, but he would heal to a good degree. I mean, he would be somewhat healed, or healed to an extent where he's good. Like, he can train, he can work out, he can, do a little bit of something so he can get back into shape. But what all of them are realizing, that his strength has amplified by, they have no idea how many times. But he's stronger, he's faster, he's everything. And this is him not fully recovered. They can't believe it, but they should. Because whatever he is, whatever being he is, whatever alien he is, he just got stronger from a near-death experience. And let's just say Muzan's in for a rude awakening, because in his eyes, he believed that there was a world where Tanjiro doesn't make it out of this, that he wouldn't make it out at all, but he would really have a bad awakening, or really have a bad thing going on in his own head when he sees from one of his own demons that Tanjiro has made a full recovery. He doesn't know what to do. He can't get it through his own head. Akaza couldn't defeat this kid, and supposedly he's stronger now. He's not saying that him and Akaza are even close on a level, but Tanjiro's power, it seems to have shot up to the degree that, can he really take on me? And he's saying this to himself, like, he's questioning himself. Is this really who I fear so much? Is this a reincarnation of Yorichi? Is this him? Is this the man that made me suffer for so many years, tens of hundreds of thousands of years? Is this him? Just come back once again? He questions himself. Does he leave? Does he get out of here? Does he hide once again? He doesn't know. He has no idea. But what he does know is that they have their own missions, their own ideas, and that is including attacking the Swordsmith's village. And while Tanjiro, after all his training and preparing and all that stuff, they send him straight there for a new sword and some new training regimen because of how well he's progressing. And let's just say Muzan, well, he would be in a really bad spot. Because yes, the attack on the entire kind of Swordsmith's village would ensue. It would, with Hontengu and Gyoko. But the thing is, he wasn't truly understanding what it meant for Tanjiro to be here, because Hontengu doesn't stand a chance. It's not even a close fight. Yes, he has other versions of himself, and Tanjiro does cut through those, and cuts through them very quickly. Even a more crazy and deranged version of him. But Tanjiro, as he has progressed and as his fighting skills have basically elevated, he realizes the real Hontengu and where it is, and he's able to slice it before anything ensues. And he even gets to the fight of Gyoko and Muchiro before it even ends, and Tanjiro is there. Gyoko would stare at him, yes, in a more kind of confident way, but at the same time, he would see things. He would see Yorichi. He would see the absolute destruction. And not only that, he would see an upper moon be defeated. And guess what? It was a sacrifice to get rid of you, Tanjiro Kamado, but it didn't work. How did it not work? And Gyoko would find his neck straight to another blade. Tanjiro's or not, it wouldn't matter. The demons that showed up on this day, the demons that showed up in the Swordsmith's village, would be obliterated, destroyed. And before the sun would even come up, the demons would be handled and would be put away for good and would be sent to the afterlife. And Nezuko herself, she wouldn't even get an opportunity to truly conquer the sun. But here's the thing. They don't need the opportunity to conquer the sun. They're coming up with a cure for Nezuko. And yes, Muzan has his questions, believing that maybe, just maybe, she is the key. She is the key to his immortality. And maybe she is the key to really doing so much more. But he doesn't know that anymore. He wouldn't know that, not in this scenario. All he does know is that Tanjiro might just set him back thousands of years. And he doesn't know if the right idea is to really send more people out there, to send, higher level demons from your, Kokoshibo, or even maybe your Domas. These two are insanely powerful. These two are insanely, strong. But should they do this? Should they send those demons out there when they don't know exactly what will happen and what will ensue? Because they may be just too weak to take on Tanjiro Kamado. They don't know, or he doesn't know. He's not sure, but he does know is something needs to happen now, because they're either going to wait another 1,000 years, or they need to take him out before it becomes impossible to defeat him. So yes, immediately the demons would ensue in an attack. Muzan would look for any opening, and this would send obviously Tanjiro and all the demon slayers into a frenzy, especially after going through a long-winded training that has been preparing them for a moment like this. But the thing is, Tanjiro has already taken out Akaza. Akaza is off the board, and there's a lot of other demons and all that other demons there that Tanjiro could definitely help with. But there's one demon, a singular one, that Tanjiro has his eyes on, and one that would take out so many, but one that could be stopped and limited in how many demon slayers he's going to take out, and that is Kokoshibo. Kokoshibo is going to be the true test to see what Tanjiro is made of. But after an entire hashira training, Tanjiro has mastered water breathing and even has shown glimpses of sun breathing, and has shown little bits of this specifically. But there's something else that is brewing within Tanjiro, something else that he hasn't shown at all. And when he steps in front of Kokoshibo, he would tell the others to stand aside. That, well, they fear him like they feared Yorichi himself. But here's the thing. Tanjiro is not Yorichi. And he tells Kokoshibo that I am not Yorichi. But one thing you should know, and one thing you should be scared of, is that fact specifically. That I am not that one demon slayer that made people curl and hide in a corner for so long. I may not be him, but I am different. And I am something of a legend. And as he tells this to Kokoshibo, he would attack him, attack Tanjiro. And Tanjiro immediately pulls out his sword. And as he does, a glow would ensue around the sword, and it would be covered in something known as ki. A ki blade would ensue, a ki blade that has been basically soaking up the power of the sun itself. Any solar radiation itself, we've been soaking it in, and he's been practicing this for a long time. And this blade, he has full control over. It's a large blade, one that can basically never be missed, but at the same time, it's going to be extremely difficult to deal with, even though there is no issues with weight movement in terms of the blade being so large. And Kokoshibo, he feels it immediately. He can understand. He understands what Muzan was scared of and what he was so fearful of. And frankly, he questions why he sent Akaza that day. Because if he didn't, if he sent him, maybe they wouldn't be dealing with this issue. Maybe Tanjiro would not be a factor. Maybe Tanjiro would have been defeated. Maybe Tanjiro would have been in the dust and all behind them. And let's just say he tries everything. Everything in the book. Even basically forcing Tanjiro to try to protect his fellow demon slayer because of how good of a person he is. He does. But it doesn't matter. Even with those opportunities, none of them are enough. And yes, Tanjiro doesn't come out unscathed and he does get hurt here and there, but it's pretty obvious who's winning this battle, and eventually Tanjiro is deemed and known as the winner of this fight, and the Upper Moon 1 is defeated, and all the other demons follow suit, especially when they know that there's nothing else that they can do. But there's one demon, one singular one, that has an obvious kind of choice to make. A choice to be made by the one and only Muzan. And what choice is he truly going to make? That choice will change everything forever. Because Muzan, well, he would decide to run, to get out of there, even sooner than normal. Normally, they would fight all the way till well, the sun will rise. But no, Muzan tries to escape almost immediately. Tanjiro is relentless, though. All the Demon Slayers are relentless, forcing him to stay out as long as possible. And Tanjiro, well, he would do everything in his possible, being to stop Muzan, and would even land a blow that cuts his head straight off. But obviously Muzan is not defeated. Muzan has conquered that aspect of being a demon. But even so, even with that being said, his regeneration is flawed. It's this energy blade that Tanjiro has created. It is unworldly. It is nothing he has seen of thousands of years. He has no idea what to do, where it's come from, and how to even handle it. And it would slow him down so much that he has very little he can do until that sun would eventually show up. The sun would eventually arrive, and there is no sacrifices. There is no, well, I'm going to try to last minute take Tanjiro and, kind of make him the strongest demon you could think of and all this other stuff. No. Because Tanjiro's level has been elevated too much, and it's all because of Muzan. And that right there, as Muzan is slipping away, going on to the afterlife, Tanjiro tells him just that. Tanjiro tells him, in full sincerity, that he's the one that created this monster. He's the one that created the Saiyan warrior. The warrior that defeats the king of all demons. And Muzan, as he disintegrates, has to literally watch the face of Tanjiro, as he's the one that created this monster, created this person that was going to defeat him. He could have taken other measures, stopped Tanjiro, ended all this. He wishes that he never showed up that day to try and turn Nezuko into a demon. He wishes he just waited another 1,000 years. Whatever, how much long he needed to wait, he wished that he waited it. Because now, everything he's worked for goes straight down the drain. Tanjiro watches as the man that he's been fighting disappears into nothing, and so many other demon slayers, ones that had their lives put on the line and ones that believed that their life on the line was worth it, survive and are allowed to have that happy ending in a world that is full of treachery, destruction, and death. All of these demon slayers, from Hashira to the lowest of the low demon slayers you can think of, they're allowed to have their happy ending. They're allowed to truly be something more than just a demon slayer. But with that said, that is the end of What If Tanjiro Was a Saiyan. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed. I actually want to do more Tanjiro What Ifs. I've been actually enjoying them. And yes, I'm going to start going into the manga. I know I skipped over a couple things, but I just thought, for story purposes, it'd be cool to do certain things. So I decided to do them. Now, with that said, not every video is going to have every arc, but not every video is going to be missing any arcs. I just want you guys to know that. I'm going to do all the way to the manga now, just because I've read the manga. We all know that we're basically coming up on the end of Demon Slayer as an anime. So I thought, you know what? Why not? Let's do it as a full thing. I know people have been asking for it, so I got y'all. I'm going to start doing it like that. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but we'll see very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for such a late upload, but I hope you guys still enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.